Okay, now that the gallery is packed, I will call this meeting to order. I have to say that the City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats and communication supports for council, standing or advisory committee meetings and information upon request. To make a request for any city service, please contact accessibility@london.ca or 519-661-2489, extension 2425. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? There being none, we will move to the consent items. Do we need to pull any consent items? Councillor Van Holst.
2.7, if you would.
All right. Any others, committee? Councillor Pelosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to speak to 2.2. I don't need it pulled per se.
All right. Any others to be pulled? All right. We're going to move all of the consent items again, except for 2.7, and Councillor Pelosa will speak to 2.2 after it's moved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and always excited when the Bradley Road extension comes up. It's something that drastically affects Ward 12 and movement around the south end of the city. Looking to staff for some clarification in regards to the cycling infrastructure and how it's going to be used throughout Bradley. Concern over currently what is from the White Oak Small area down Bradley, that not really being a bike lane on the sides of the road seems a little bit sparse, and how that's going to connect with our new proposal.
Thank you. Through the chair, the Bostwick Road environmental assessment just locally assessed the section of Bradley that was left a little uncertain when its environmental assessment was completed, probably almost 10 years ago now, and it's again just the intersection with Bostwick. It is a multi-year plan, and we just recently completed the stretch from Warrencliffe to Wonderland that has two-way cycling facilities designed in the context of the street. The next phase will take the Bradley Ave extension easterly from that initial phase over to Jalna Boulevard, and then further out it will come over to Bostwick in 2028. Regarding the section of Bradley Avenue closer to White Oak Small, who I know the cycling master plan pretty well, but I can't recall exactly what it identifies for Bradley, but that's something that we can look into the master plan and get back to you on further details.
Through the chair, thank you for that. Just everything from Wellington Road over to White Oak Road, it's on both sides of the street, but it's not marked, and I don't believe the width actually meets provincial standards. So if staff could just look into that and follow up, that'd be appreciated.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll be very brief through you to staff. I just had the opportunity to speak to Councillor Hopkins before our meeting today, and talk specifically about 2.2 and 2.3. The Southdale Road West and Bostwick Road improvements, EA, and the Bostwick Road realignment. And just on her behalf, I want to extend her thanks for all the work that's gone into advancing this sooner than anticipated. With the growth that we're seeing and the success that we're seeing around the Bostwick Community Center, this is a much needed addition to the Southwest. I appreciated the work that was done around advancing the road work that was needed for the East Community Center at the last Civic Works, and I just wanted to again extend thanks to staff for this piece in the Southwest, because it's important as well. And I know you're all working very hard at getting these issues addressed for us.
Councillor Lehman?
Through the chair to staff, when I see these plans for major arteries, 10 years ago when we were planning for roads, we didn't think about bike lanes. And I see through recent debates with transportation, when we get into situations where we want to go back later and widen the road for other uses, we get into big costs for expropriation. When we go forward on new major arteries, what thought is given to providing enough room on either side so that councils, 10, 15 years down the road will have sufficient space to do whatever is needed at that particular time?
Thank you. It's a good question, quite involved through the chair. At the project level, the environmental assessments try to capture all the needs that we recognize today, and we look forward 20 years into the future and look towards growth. And you're right, active modes have really come to the fore. Now, we have planned for cycling. We have cycling master plans that date back, I guess back to 2005. But we try to speculate at all the needs and identify them. But in the longer term, the right-of-way space is better captured for, I guess, the issues that you're talking about through the London plan and the right-of-way widths that we acquire through dedications during development approvals. So when a parcel comes in for development, the London plan specifies the road width, and the dedication is received from the developer at that time. And the London plan was a little more forward-thinking than the previous official plan and widened out some of the right-of-way widths, recognizing all the competing and all the different desires for the right-of-way. So now, typically in the past, arterial roads were 36 meters wide. The London plan takes some of those wider, up to 45 meters total.
Councillor Van Holst?
Oh, thank you very much. I wanted to say that I just appreciate that we're looking at doing the single-phase construction as opposed to the two phases. It saves a substantial amount of money, but even as significant is that we get all the benefits immediately. So that was the point I wanted to make. Thanks for that.
Anything further? Being said, we'll call the vote on those matters.
Closing the vote, motion passed 5-0.
Councillor Van Holst, you wanted to pull item 2.7.
Yes, so for this one, we're looking at the next community energy plan. And I'm looking at page 87. We're looking at actions that can also be taken to provide benefits to both climate change mitigation and adaptation. We talked about things like combined heat and power systems, green roofs, urban forestry, and green roofs kind of jumped out at me. And because I think there's going to be some things that seem attractive or seem like a good idea, but in terms of metrics, aren't really saving a lot in terms of greenhouse gases per dollar. So sticking some sod and some tomato plants on a roof may not be really a worthy investment. So I think I'm hoping, and through the chair, that when we're coming up with a plan, we can figure out metrics like that. How much greenhouse gases or tons we can save per dollar, or dollars per ton in a form like that. Because I think there seems to be a lot of emotion behind some of these things, but the practicality may not always be there. I know I got an email recently from a group making demands about climate change. We the people, climate change demands. What we're demanding from London municipal government and the federal government of Canada is to save humanity from extinction. So I think there's a little bit of hysteria in this, and we've got to make sure that we stay pretty focused. I haven't heard about extinction, and, because otherwise I think maybe we might only need a 2 or 3 year strategic plan. So there are some great initiatives, though. I've found perhaps the most interesting one I heard recently is that in terms of livestock, we've heard that there's a lot of methane production from the the rumination of straw and things that they eat. But if you feed a cow 1% seaweed along with that cuts that process by 50%, which is actually huge in terms of reduction of greenhouse gases when you consider that methane is a far greater a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So I hope that when we're doing this, we can put some of those kind of metrics in, so we just see, we know what we would be getting for dollar, because we only have so many dollars to expend, so.
Are
those
you
my
looking
comments.
for a comment, or is that just, you want to respond?
I guess that's a request. I mean, staff's welcome to respond.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if I may, all very important comments made there, and they will be included. It is very key that we are able to provide an indication to Londoners and businesses where we can on low-cost, no-cost solutions, and the whole notion that some things do cost more, but they have a better return on investment. So all that has been captured in our previous documents and will be part of our go-forward strategy, because it's very important that Londoners need and look to us for some advice on where to go next.
That's great, thank you.
Somebody prepared to move that item then, 2.7, moved by Councillor Van Holst, seconded by Councillor Lehman. Anything further on 2.7? No, we'll call the vote.
Closing the vote, motion passes 5-0, 5-0.
Before we move on, Councillor Lehman had a question about 2.6. I know we voted on it. He just has a question on it, so that's fine.
With your permission, Chair, just had a question in figure 1, London's GHG emissions versus federal and provincial reduction targets. It shows two areas of like a dramatic drop off for London's emissions in looks like approximately the latter part of just before 2010, so maybe 2006, 2007, and then again around 2015. I'm just wondering what caused that, or why that sudden drop. Oh, sorry.
Through the chair, I would have to look back in time, but drops that significant are often to do with changes at the provincial government level or the federal government level, where we see something like the coal-fired gas plants closing down, and you see immediate greening of the electricity grid in that case. So I would look back in those cases, but drops of that significance are typically tied back to either federal action or provincial action.
So, through the chair, it's nothing that London did specific that would have had such a major impact.
Through the chair, no, we would never see swings that big here in London unless something in the way of renewable energy moved in a big way. Then we would see quite a significant jolt. Generally in London for local governments, you have small incremental gains every year, but it's the combination of policies at the local government level or those that are pushed down to us by the provincial government level that continue that positive momentum. So from a staff perspective, when we look at these, as long as we're seeing a downward trend, which we are, all moving in the right direction.
Councillor Van Holst?
Thank you. I did have a couple questions on this item as well. In number number 23 of the actions, it said that we were looking at multi-residential units to get some information, that a minimum of 20 units would be needed to participate in order for the information to be disclosed. I wonder how many units we did get to participate?
So if you could help me with page number on,
In the second column is, and the second paragraph of the second column is what I was referring to.
that'll be a number that I have to look in the file to get back to you on.
All right, thanks. Does the Mayor's Sustainable Energy Council still exist?
Through the chair, no, that ceased to operate, about 4+ years ago. It was in place when the plan started, but it did not carry forward under the previous council.
Okay,
We're actually, I went back to do this item for Councillor Lehman to ask a question, so I hope we can move along. That was my one attempt at being nice during my term as chair. I can promise you won't happen again. So can we move on? Excellent. So moving on to deferred items, or deferred matters list. Item 5.1, staff has not asked for anything to be removed. Committee? If there's nothing, somebody prepared to move and second the deferred matters list. Councillor Pelosa, seconded by Councillor Lewis. Any further discussion? We'll call the vote.
Closing the vote, motion passed 5-0.
Moving on to the third report of the Transportation Advisory Committee. Does the committee have anything they wish to discuss? If not, do we have a mover and seconder? Moved by Councillor Van Holst, seconded by Councillor Pelosa. Anything further? We'll call the vote.
Motion passed 5-0.
And the final matter is an added matter regarding high occupancy vehicle and next transportation master plan. Councillor Van Holst, I think this was your matter.
yes, thank you. It's on the back page of the added if councilors haven't seen it. But speaking with staff, they were telling me that Wonderland Road in that environmental assessments, we're going to be looking at HOV lanes. And, but HOV lanes are something we could look at sort of on a network basis if we wanted in the next update to the transportation master plan. So they might become an option in other places as well. And of course, that's an option that would prioritize transit, which is a valuable thing. So I hope to put on the floor the motion that HOV lanes be assessed at a network level in the next update to the transportation master plan. It being noted, they provide a potential new option for transit prioritization. So I wonder if someone would look.
I said I would second that, and I will. So now it's moved in second. Discussion? Councillor Helmer? Or, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean.
I certainly do. I think it's an interesting idea. I went through the chair, if Councillor Van Holst could clarify, are you talking about assessing converting existing lanes to HOV or expanding roadways and adding HOV lanes or some combination of both of those things? And are you talking about certain kinds of roads or just all the RTO roads in the transportation network?
Perhaps, Mr. Chair, we could go to staff to find out what doing a network assessment for the transportation master plan might entail.
That's through me to staff. Go ahead.
Thank you. When we're updating the transportation master plan, it behooves us to look at all different options to make traffic, transportation better in the city. HOV lanes are somewhat unique. They're fairly rare in the province of Ontario in a municipal setting. They're becoming more prevalent on freeways, but on arterial roads, still quite rare. Like the closest ones are just about 3 municipalities in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area. They do, they're quite unique in that they rely on certain road configurations. Number of accesses, driveways are a factor. Traffic characteristics like ridership levels in cars are a consideration. And of course, they rely on enforcement to be effective. So a bunch of unique factors there to consider. So we would, we could look at it. Probably makes sense to assess it at a network level and see what makes sense. But as far as levels of road, it would, at first blush, I would suggest that it would apply to arterial roads and most likely 6 lanes. The precedents in the Toronto area are that they they typically apply to 6-lane arterial roads.
Anything further? Call the vote.
Closing the vote, that motion passed 4-1.
And moving to last item, adjournment. Do I have mover? Mover's Councillor Lewis, seconded by Councillor Lehman. Call the vote. Can we do a hand vote?
Yep.
All in favor? Perfect. We are adjourned.